I read some books this month, so I'm going to tell you about them. Hello everyone and welcome back. So it is now the end of August, which I can't believe. I really feel like this month flew by, and I want to tell you about the books that I read this month. So that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm here for today. The first book that I read I actually listened to on audiobook, and that is Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. I loved this book. It's a memoir written, of course, by Michelle Zauner about her childhood growing up half Korean, half American, her relationship with her parents, her relationship with her culture. Her mom ultimately, unfortunately, passes away from cancer, and it's her grappling with that cancer diagnosis, losing her mom, and how that just affects her life in general. She is a wonderful writer, and I felt so connected with her as I listened to her story, and I can't recommend listening to the audiobook enough because it really just felt like having a conversation with her. It really felt like I was just sitting down for a cup of coffee or tea in a cafe, and she was just telling me about her life, which I love when memoirs and nonfiction books feel that way. So I loved it and truly can't recommend it enough. It is an amazing book. And oh, I love the descriptions. I want to mention I loved the descriptions of food. I related to it because I'm Italian American and she's Korean American. She was talking about all the Korean food that her mom made and how it was really part of their connection and their relationship and their culture, and that's exactly how I feel about a lot of Italian food and how it connects me to my family. So I really loved that, and the descriptions of food were just so wonderful, and I really loved this book, so very happy that I listened to it especially. The next book that I read was Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I also listened to this on audiobook. I didn't read it physically because I picked this book up a couple months ago, and I didn't know, I was really in the mood for it, but I didn't know when I would have the time to physically read it because I've been physically reading a lot of other books. So I decided to listen to the audiobook because I liked it quite a bit, and this story is really fascinating. It's about these two friends who become friends when they are children. Their paths sort of separate and come together, separate, come together quite a bit, and it's about their friendship and also their desire to want to be video game designers and to develop video games. How that's kind of the thing that they bonded over when they first became friends as kids. My favorite aspect about this book was the games when they were described. I thought that the games sounded so interesting, and I really wish that they were actual games because I kind of wanted to play them. Even though I'm definitely not a gamer, I've never really been super into video games. I like a few, but I just don't play video games very much. But I found it really interesting still, and I feel like you don't really have to be like a super big gamer to enjoy this book. I think that the relationships in the book were very interesting as well because we're following them over a great period of time when they are around, I want to say like 11 or 12 up until they're in their, I would say, early 30s. So we're following a big span of time, and I just really enjoyed following the characters as we saw them develop and go from young kids to students in college to then developing their own video games and making that their career and how that affects their lives and their friendship and their connection with other people. So that is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Put it over here. Also, I apologize for the noise. My neighbor is doing something in their backyard with very loud machinery. So I apologize if you can hear that. If not, then great. The next book I actually just read very recently, and I filmed a cozy, summery little vlog while I read it, so if you want to check that out, I will link it. But that is The Summer We Crossed Europe in the Rain by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is the newest Ishiguro book, and it is unlike any other book that he has come out with because these are lyrics for a jazz singer, Stacey Kent. So I love this story. I think it's fascinating. Kazuo Ishiguro originally wanted to be a songwriter before he became a novelist. He really loved jazz music in particular, and he really wanted to be a songwriter. And then over the years, he developed into a fiction writer. Stacey Kent, who is a wonderful jazz singer and musician with her husband, Jim Tomlinson. She was a big fan of Kazuo Ishiguro's books and reached out to him and said, "Would you like to write some lyrics for me?" And I thought that that was amazing because he always wanted to do this before he became a writer, and then it never really became a reality until he became a writer, and then I just love that story. So these are song lyrics that are beautifully illustrated by the Italian illustrator Bianca Bagnorelli, and they are absolutely gorgeous. This is such a beautiful book. Kazuo Ishiguro wrote a really great introduction to the book as well, and there's a really great discussion on YouTube where Kazuo Ishiguro talks about the book as well as him writing lyrics for Stacey Kent, and there's also Stacey Kent is a part of the conversation with Jim Tomlinson, and they do a performance of the title song, The Summer We Cross Europe in the Rain. I listened to the songs as I read the lyrics and looked through the illustrations, and it was the perfect reading experience. So if you do decide to read this book, I can't recommend you listen to the lyrics and the song as you read the lyrics. It's just such a wonderful reading experience, and the illustrations are absolutely gorgeous. They really just enhance the whole story and the whole book, and I just loved this very, very much, so highly recommend it. That was a great one and so unique. I love that they decided to publish the lyrics in a book. And of course, best of all, got them illustrated by a great illustrator. The next book I just finished yesterday, actually, and that is Enid Blyton's Nature Stories. I am so happy to have finished this because I feel like I've been reading it forever. I think I started it in March, and I just finally finished it at the end of August. And these are 30 nature stories by Enid Blyton. They all honor the natural world, and they really anthropomorphize animals, and they give them their own stories. They read like fables and fairy tales, which makes it feel very nostalgic, and all of them are so sweet. They all have like a moral and a lesson, and I love that because I could just feel like a kid again when I was reading this book, as well as I could imagine myself eventually reading these stories to my children one day, which I feel like is just such a special experience. So I love Enid Blyton. This is my first foray into Enid Blyton's work, and I'm very excited to read her other books. You guys know I love middle grade. If you don't, now you do. I love middle grade so much, and I love children's stories, and this was just so wonderful. And I know Enid Blyton is an icon. Definitely recommend it, especially for the spring and summertime, but I also feel like autumn as well. There was a story at the end of it about mistletoe, how mistletoe grows. That's one thing about these stories, is I learned so many things about different animals and different plants that I had no idea about and I didn't know before. What was that? Oh, I think it's some kind of machine. This is what happens when I try to film videos. The landscapers come, people are doing things in their yards and their gardens. Anyway, I just loved how, even though I am an adult now, and I feel like I know a lot about nature, there are still certain things that I didn't know that I learned through this book, which I think is so exciting. Especially how mistletoe grows. I had no clue mistletoe can't grow on its own. It has to like attach itself to other trees. I thought that was very interesting. The next book that I have been currently reading since 2021, this is a book that I just love taking my time with. There is no rush. I don't want to finish it in a short amount of time, and that is Devotions by Mary Oliver. This is a very big collection of poems by Mary Oliver from smaller selections of poetry that they just took their favorites, I guess, and combined them all into one volume. So I have been loving reading through this literally since 2021. This poem is titled Just as the Calendar Began to Say Summer. I went out of the schoolhouse fast, and through the gardens and to the woods, and spent all summer forgetting what I had been taught. 2 times 2, and diligence, and so forth. How to be modest and useful, and how to succeed, and so forth. Machines and oil and plastic and money and so forth. By fall I had healed somewhat, but was summoned back to the chalky rooms and the desks to sit and remember the way the river kept rolling its pebbles, the way the wind wrens sang though they hadn't a penny in their bank, the way the flowers were dressed in nothing but light. I love that, it's so good. I just love the juxtaposition between, not really capitalism, but like the real world and society and nature, I think is so beautiful. So I love Mary Oliver. She is my favorite poet, my favorite poetess, and I have been loving reading through these poems. So yes, I can't recommend her poetry enough, especially if you're new to poetry or you don't love poetry very much. I feel like Mary Oliver's poetry is extremely approachable, and she talks a lot about the natural world and nature, so if you are also a nature lover, then I think you will love her poetry. Then the last book I want to talk to you guys about is the book that I have been taking the most time in reading physically, and that is 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami. I have been reading this for the Game of Tomes book club on my beautiful new Kindle, and there is so much that I have to say about this book, but also nothing at the same time, because what the hell? This book is just insane. I really was despising it in book 1, and then I was reading book 2. So this book it's 1 volume, but it's split up into 3 books. I didn't love book 1. I really, really loved book 2 because I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, and I was so intrigued, and I wanted answers, and it was like the ultimate, like, what is going to happen. And now book 3, we're kind of like stagnant. I'm not loving it, I'm not hating it. So I have such roller coaster feelings about this book. So many people are landscaping today. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I'm almost done. So yes, I'm still reading this. How far of the way am I? I think I'm about 70... Hello, landscapers. I'm about 72% of the way through. I'm on page 839 out of 1,158. I'm going to dedicate a lot of today and the rest of the month to read it. There are only like 2 days, today and tomorrow, that's left of August. Today's August 30th. So anyway, I'm reading it. I'm enjoying it. I'm also not enjoying it. I'm liking it, I'm hating it. I don't know how I feel about this book. So it'll be an interesting discussion when Emma and I are ready to discuss it. I do love reading your thoughts on Fable, so if you guys want to join the discussion, you can join us for free on Fable and chat with us about each chapter of the book. So anyway, that is 1Q84. So these are all the books that I read in August. Not too many books, but a very big amount of pages, especially because of 1Q84. I've just been dedicating most of my physical reading time to that one. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I would love to know what books you read in August, so definitely feel free to let me know in the comments. And thank you guys so much for watching and being here, and I will see you very soon in another video. As always, happy reading.